Hi, this is Rachelle with Journal Life's Journey, and I am back to work on my fall journal. If you would like to see how all of this started, I will link to the video in the iCard up above. So I'm using a Dollar Tree dot grid notebook that I picked up a while ago during back to school, I think, and I'm covering it with some of the paper from the paper pad. This was the initial journal that I wanted to do something with for fall, and of course, me being me, it has turned into a whole other project. But I'm adding the scrapbook paper with Fabri-Tac, and I'm going to let that rest a little bit before I trim off that other edge. Here I am going to make something to hold the notebook in place inside the cover. And I want to get the most out of this piece of paper. It has all of the different designs that were in the paper pad. I call it the sampler page. So I'm using as much of it as I can. And I'm just going to create a type of belly band to hold that journal in place. So I have my base piece, and then I have two flaps that I've scored at 1/8 inch for about 5/8 of an inch. And then I'm using those as flaps to fold over the base piece. Just testing everything out to make sure that it is going to fit. And if there is ever a time where you see something in one of these videos and you want more details on how to do it, just let me know in the comments. So here I'm using, it's a type of medical tape, but it is a craft color somewhat, or a flesh tone, and it's a fabric-y type tape. You can tear it, but it's not that easy to tear. So I'm using that to reinforce my folds. I try to reinforce those areas that have a stress point. There will be a lot of wear and tear on those folds, so that's why I usually try to reinforce. So here I'm covering the inside of one of the flaps because I don't want the white. I want it to have a patterned paper look. Just lining that up and applying the glue and adding it, and then I will trim off the excess. And I'm also making sure that my directions are correct because this is a directional paper. And I'm rounding the corners. And again, this would just be one big belly band that will hold that journal in place. Here I'm punching out 1-inch circles. And I'm going to use that to make a banker style closure. I double those up to make them a little more sturdy. And of course, I'm inking. I'm using gathered twigs. And so for this one, I didn't really have a paper to cover the inside of this flap. So I am going to use washi tape. And I have to remember to use this washi tape somewhere else in the journal so that it's just not a one-off. The washi tape was still a little short, so I decided to use a scrap to just create a simple tuck spot. And again, I'm rounding the corners and inking all the edges. So I only put glue on 3 sides of that piece so that it is a tuck spot. So now I'm going to add the little buttons for my banker's closures. And I'm not going to use brads this time. I'm going to use eyelets. I'm really enjoying the eyelets from Temu that have that washer on the back. They just go in so cleanly. I'm so used to having that rough back with the other eyelets that I was using. So it's really nice to have those clean, precise eyelets. They work great. I found the center of everything and now I'm punching the holes. I never get the holes quite right on the buttons, but I do try. Putting those buttons in place and adding the eyelets. And the tool that I'm using to set the eyelets and punch the holes is a We Are Memory Keepers, Now We Are Makers Crocodile. There's also one called the Big Bite, which is the Crocodile 2, I think it's called. If you're planning to invest in something like that, I would suggest getting the Big Bite because it has a longer reach, so it is more functional than the handheld version. It's more expensive, but if you need to punch holes that are further away from the edge than the Crocodile 1 reaches, then you would still end up having to get the Big Bite. So why not just get the Big Bite in the first place? I wish I had known that, and I would have just picked up the Big Bite first. But so I'll try to link to all the tools and supplies that I use in the description box, and they will be affiliate links. I do earn a small commission, but there is no additional cost to you. So I've added the flaps to my base piece with Fabri-Tac. And I'm just cleaning that up. And here I am fitting the notebook, making sure that it's going to fit. So the belly band piece with the notebook will go on the back inside cover of the journal. Now I'm working on the front inside cover. I have this 12 by 12 paper in the pad that I've been using, and usually it's hard to use these full spread papers, so I figured I would try to do something with it. And I am making somewhat of an envelope. I don't know what you would call these. It has flaps, clips and flaps, left, right, top, bottom. And now I'm scoring to add some gusset, about a 1/2 inch using 1/8 inch scores. It might be 5/8, maybe a little over a 1/2 inch. But I do the 1/8 inch scores in between so that it's not a hard fold and it's more flexible and gives room to grow. I'm reinforcing again with the medical tape, adding a little glue stick to make sure that that sticks well. And I'm trimming up the medical tape. Also, with time-lapse videos, if any part is too fast, you can use the settings in YouTube to slow it down. And again, if there's something specific that you want to see in real-time speed, let me know and I will see what I can do to make that happen. So I'm just folding all those 1/8 inch scores, making sure everything is secure, and this is how it's going to open. I'm going to cover the white with more scraps from the paper pad. And again, I'm trying to use as much of that paper pad as I can. So I'm using scraps, and more scraps. I'm trimming down another piece of the sampler page, and I'm going to make this a double pocket. I'm also stitching on this project. I didn't mention the stitching in the original video for the cover, but I did stitch around the cover with black zigzag stitches, and I will be repeating that throughout the journal. So again, this is the panel that will go inside the front cover. So I'm just adding the glue to 3 sides and down the center. I found the center by somewhat folding it, and then I'm placing it on my mat that I'm going to use to cover the white. And here we go with the ink again, inking it up. So here I'm figuring out what to do on the other mat. I'm going to make 3 little pockets with these scraps. I trimmed them down, and I'm going to use my 1-inch punch to create thumb notches. And then, of course, I'm going to ink them up. And I'm adding glue to 3 sides, and I'm attempting to space them out as equally as I can, with the third one not being too close to the top because I don't want what I put in that pocket to hang out. And I did stitch the pockets, and here I am going ahead and adding the Fabri-Tac and matting those flaps. Okay, so that's 2 flaps down on the outside, the left and right. Now I need to work on the top and bottom. Here I'm fitting inside the cover just to make sure it's going to fit well. And you'll see that brightly colored piece of fabric floating around throughout these videos because I plan on using it somehow on the journal topper. So that's what that was about. But I'm rounding the corners on those flaps and inking them up again. So now I'm going to work on the top and bottom flaps. I am making envelopes that I'm going to somehow turn into flaps for this. This is more of that scrapbook paper, and I am just testing to make sure that these envelopes will work. And this is somewhat of my idea, to slide them onto the little hinges that I have left on this paper. So I haven't tried anything like this before. This is new, but it should work. So I just mitered the hinges so that they will slide onto the envelope smoothly. And I'm going to go ahead and create the second envelope. And I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers, Now We Are Makers envelope punch board. And I don't really need to punch all 4 corners, but it's just habit. So I'm punching or rounding all 4 corners of the envelope, all 4 flaps, because they're not actually corners anymore. So I'm going to use these envelopes in the long position, and I am only going to need one of the flaps on the end. So I'm gluing the other one down and inking everything up, inside and out, just the areas that will show, that will be visible. And then on the inside of that flap, I'm grunging it up a little bit with the ink as well. Doing a little more dry fitting, and I'm going to trim off that overhang flap on the envelope and ink that up so we'll have a nice straight edge. I'm going to do the same thing on this envelope. So just use the ruler and draw from one edge to the other, using the other flap as a guide, and then trim it off with the scissors. And ink that area again. So now I'm going to add it to the hinge. And I'm using the Tombow Aqua glue this time. No real reason. I switch from glue to glue. It just depends sometimes. Probably should have stuck with the Fabri-Tac, but I don't know why I did that. Also, I'm still somewhat testing the Tombow glue. I know a lot of people swear by it. I'm still not convinced 100%. I mean, I like it sometimes, but it does take, I'm so used to art glitter glue drying so quickly and Fabri-Tac catching quickly. The aqua glue takes a minute. So those will be my upper and lower flaps, and I did stitch those as well. And I do leave the strings. I like that grungy look. So I do leave dangling strings. I try not to leave too much because I know a lot of people don't like that. If it was left to me, they would be all over the place, but I try to be more conservative with that. So here I have some vellum that I'm going to use to make layered pockets on the inside because I don't want to completely cover up the design of that paper with the pumpkin. So I chose to use vellum to make pockets, and I'm going to tear the edge and stagger the pockets. And I'm doing the torn edge. I still want it to have more of a rustic fall look. And I wouldn't say this is 100% a junk journal, but I feel like a lot of what we do as junk journals would be considered junk journal style. I think it's really a cross between junk journals, scrapbooking, glue books, all of that wrapped up into one. And it's just easy to call it a junk journal. So here I'm using the art glitter glue again, and I'm trying to rub that in really well so that it doesn't show too much through the vellum. And I'm going to use one of my Tim Holtz stencils to stencil onto my pocket piece. Initially, I was going to use the blue color, but I decided to go with the brown for now, or the gathered twig. So this is the pocket, and I went around the edges mostly. That helped hide the glue. lines as well, and to attach it to the scrapbook paper, I am using Fabri-Tac. I'm just using the bone folder to burnish that down and make sure the glue is spread well, and cleaning it up with the glue remover. So this is how the pockets work. And I'm just going to go along the edge of the vellum and add ink there too, just so that they stand out a little bit more. Now I'm back to the envelopes. I'm closing those up. So where I glued the hinge in, that part of the envelope will be open. So everything else is glued closed. So this is how this will work. And I had cut these to put on the top and bottom flap, but I decided to tuck them into the pockets for now. I didn't like them on the flaps. So let's test it out again and see how it looks in the book. All right, so now I'm back to, I skip around a lot and I'm sorry about that, but that's just how I craft. So I'm back to the flaps on the front insert piece. I have 2 pieces of vellum that I have already stenciled with the leaf stencil, and I'm going to add those to those inside flaps as tuck spots or pockets. So I'm just rounding the corners. And I'm going to glue on 3 sides and put it in place. So essentially anything that you put in these pockets is going to show and show through well, and then also the design on the actual paper will still stand out. So if you ever have scrapbook paper that you really want to show and you don't want to cover it up, vellum is an option, so is a clear acetate. With vellum, I try to smooth it down as much as possible because it will pucker depending on the glue. But this is what the pockets look like again. And then this is how the top and bottom pockets will work. So all the pockets just need to be filled, and now I need to work on a closure for this piece. I have these 2 scrap pieces left over. I'm going to use my tag punch to punch them. And I'm going to make a belly band style closure with these. So I scored it 1/2 inch, then 1 inch, and between 1/2 inch and 1 inch, I scored the 1/8 inch marks. Again, that'll give me an expandable folded area, somewhat a bit of a gusset, but it won't be a hard folded boxed edge. It'll be more curled. Back to the Temu eyelets, and I'm just going to add eyelets into these. And then I'm folding those 1/8 inch scores so that it will wrap around nicely. Considered top and bottom, but I decided to go ahead and do from side to side. So I'm using the Fabri-Tac to attach the closure pieces. And now I'm back to the original journal. I'm going to cut off that excess piece of scrapbook paper. So it's nice and clean, ready to go. placing the journal into the belly band for the back inside cover. And I'm adding some twine that I got from the Dollar Tree to the closures. I think it's supposed to be a baker's twine, but it's much heavier than a baker's twine. Now, I initially planned to do this as a banker style closure, but I felt like the loop worked better. So I'm just looping it through and tying it in a bow, just like I did on the front panel. So now my concern is when you hold the book up to the side, will the journal fall out? The notebook, will that fall out? I think it will, but I think I will try to alleviate that in a future video. So now it's that time, the time to commit. I'm going to glue these into place with Fabri-Tac. Just making sure everything lines up neatly. You can still see the end paper peeping through, but the foil is not just gaudy like it was. I mean, I like the foil, but it was a bit much. So that kind of helps push it back a little bit, and you just get a little sparkle around the edges. So I'm sliding in the notebook, tying it up. See how everything fits in there. I think it turned out pretty good so far. So the next step is to try and fill up those elastics. So I have 4 elastics. So I know of 3 things that I want to add. We'll see if I can come up with a 4th. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will holler at y'all next time. Bye.